in our government. And he happens to be a friend from Yonkers, and we want to give a nice warm welcome for the chambers to the Majority Leader of the Yonkers City Council, the Honorable Wilson Terrero. And while Mr. Terrero would like to say sometimes that he's the first legislator, the first majority leader of Hispanic descent, we will absolutely make sure to mention that Gordon Burroughs would have that honor of being the first person. However, he is certainly the first person of Dominican descent. So thank you so much, Wilson. Thank you for being here this evening with us. At this time, we would like to bring down Majority Leader Peter Harcum to recognize our first recipient, Neighbors Link. If our folks for Neighbors Link would come down at this particular time, the dynamic Executive Director. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's really not much more to say. That was quite the introduction. We all love the districts we represent, and we should. Westchester is a rich and diverse place, and I love the district I represent because it's really a microcosm of all of Westchester and all of Westchester's diversity. You know, we kind of have a micro-urban area in Mount Kisco up to very rural areas in the northern part of my district. And that diversity in Mount Kisco is vibrant, and you feel it, it's palpable. The latest census said roughly 30%, maybe probably more, of Mount Kisco's population are of Hispanic descent, Latino, and you see it everywhere. The restaurants, the gourmet food stores, the shops. It really made a difference in the Mount Kisco economy at a time when Mount Kisco, some people thought, was on the way down. It's really come up, and it's just a vibrant place to live. And sometimes growth and change can be painful, and we've seen that in some communities. And in other places where it's managed and planned for and nurtured, it becomes a wonderful thing. And that's what we're celebrating today with Neighbors Link and Corolla Bracco. Neighbors Link has been that resource to nurture and build bridges between communities, between old and new, and it's really facilitated a sense of community, I think, which is really special. You don't see the flashpoints in Mount Kisco that you've seen other places. And when they begin to build, Corolla is there and other people are there through dialogue and nurturing, that people get these things worked out. And now Neighbors Link has really become a national model, and you've taken your show on the road to other communities. And that's the kind of thing we look for in the board, in these public-private partnerships. And I'm proud that a few years ago we did fund a small project at Neighbors Link because we look for the bigger application. That's the good use of the tax dollar. So it's an incredible organization. We are so proud of the work you do. We're so grateful for the work you do. And I'm really just so thrilled that you're my friend. So Corolla, on behalf of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, we will say that today is Neighbors Link Day in Westchester County.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So thank you very much, and thank you so much to the Board of Legislators for this. It's very appreciated. Our mission at Neighbors Link is all about integration. We provide education and employment opportunities to the immigrant community through the programs that we serve. But equally as important is the work that we do with longer-term residents, helping them understand better why immigrants are coming to this country and why they're here. So the work that we do involves programs for the immigrant community as well as for longer-term residents. So I appreciate the support from the board. I also want to tell you that I very much appreciate the support you've given to low-income families as they try to access affordable care, health care, as well as child care. So thank you very much for this recognition, and thank you especially to Peter for being so present in our community.
We'll go around front. Yeah, let's go right in front.
At this time, we're going to have the legislator from the 9th District, the Honorable Catherine Borgia, for our next presentation to First Step, Primeros Pasos. Ladies, if you can come on down. All right.
So in Ossining, we are very, very, very fortunate to have a community that works well together in a highly functional manner. So about 10 years ago, our school district, the Ossining School District, which I am very proud to say I'm a parent of 2 students in the Ossining School District receiving a wonderful education, identified a need, and that was for our earliest residents from birth to age 4, before students were eligible to enter into our wonderful universal pre-K program. There was a need to help families access resources, help their children become school ready, and to understand how to navigate the system in America, especially for our newest residents. So in Ossining, as the magic happened, as it usually does, and we had a wonderful collaborative partnership between our school district, some generous families in Ossining who have family foundations that they put towards good causes like First Steps, Primeros Pasos, and our library and other community organizations really jumped in together to create this organization that, as our chairman said, really looks to help our youngest residents and also help the families of our youngest residents really know how to access health care, how to navigate within the school system, how to read to your child, why you should read to your child as a newborn baby, how to, it brings people together for play groups and for parenting groups and for all manner of things. And we've really seen a difference in the students the young people who come through this program really come to school ready to learn, eager to learn, happy to be there, integrated into our community. And in Ossining, that benefits all of us, and we're so pleased, I'm so pleased to be able to present this award to my friends, Dr. Angela White, who is a particular buddy of mine. We've been involved in a lot of things together in Ossining, and she was also my younger daughter's favorite principal ever, prior to being to be named the assistant superintendent of the Ossining schools, and also the women from First Steps, Primeros Pasos. Do I have a? Oh, I think this must be it. I'm just going to do a quick look to see what your day is.
Every day.
Excellent. Okay. So this is another proclamation saying that we want to honor this model. We think this is a good model for other communities to replicate, and to thank Primeros Pasos, all those involved in Primeros Pasos, for the good work they do in Ossining, for the good work they do for the children of Ossining, and for the good work they do to benefit the Westchester community in general. So thank you very much. Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much for this honor. On behalf of our District Superintendent, Dr. Phyllis Glassman, and our Board of Education President, Mr. Bill Kress, we indeed find it an honor to receive this recognition. As Catherine has mentioned, we have just, this is our 10th year providing literacy services and family literacy services to our youngest students in the Ossining School District from birth through 4 years old. And as part of this program, so many students who are now in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade have come through this program, starting with Sonara and with Marcella going and meeting with parents and going to Phelps Hospital and providing our new mothers with books and information on literacy, and for conducting parent workshops on a monthly basis, and for conducting Little School for our youngest students, where they come in and there's a mommy and me and daddy and me. Without these services, our students who may not have any other opportunity to find books and to have books and to build up their libraries, this would not have been possible. And so this is a program that we're just so very proud of. And again, we just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Get a shot one. All right. At this time, we're going to ask our boys and girls scouts to come back down for just a second. And Legislator Burrows, I hope that you're going to come down and celebrate this. I know, Mr. Ryan, this is your district with El Centro Hispano. I hope that you're going to come down and be part of this wonderful picture. Let's give a great big round of applause for our daisies, our brownies, our Girl Scouts, our Cub Scouts, our Weeblos, right? I think I got everybody, right? Did I miss any? Nope, let's turn around the other way, right? Photo op, right? Come closer, come together. Wait, break it up. Come on, break it up. Let's. Barry, get it together. All right, push it up. Right? Hey, Bill, watch it back here. Right? All right, scout leaders, come on, punch in there. All right, all right. Come on, brownies, let's do it. Yeah, you know the brownies, huh?
If you can't see the camera, you're not getting in the picture.
There's one brownie, right?
Yeah, only one here, but we have more.
Just doing a test to see if I can see everything.
She's a pro. Yeah, she's got to go in money. All right. Barry, you're in good shape. There we go.
Beautiful. Great. Hey. Two, one more. Three.
All right, thank you. We also want to recognize two things. One is we certainly have another one of our former colleagues, and you know you're never a former legislator, you're always an honorable member in this chamber, who is now the first Latino clerk of the city of Yonkers. That's the Honorable Jose Alvarado. Certainly want to recognize him. And certainly to remember that El Centro Hispano are one of the groups that the board has funded for many, many years through our service opportunity program. So let's give everyone again a great big round of applause for their participation in Hispanic Heritage Month. At this particular point in time, we're going to go into our regular board meeting. So certainly you are free to retire should you have come. Thank you so much. Let's thank again First Step Primeros Pasos and Neighbors Link. Give them all a round of applause again for their hard work and recognition in this Hispanic Heritage Month. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, tell me. All right, let's all please rise for the regular meeting of the Westchester County Board of Legislators. Tonight is October 15th, and we are going to ask Legislator Burrows to lead us again in the Pledge of the Flag. Mr. Burrows. Almighty God, give us the strength, courage, and wisdom to always act in the best interest of the people of Westchester County in this chamber. Let us keep in mind that every decision that we make impacts upon the life, health, and safety of all our great county residents. Amen. Madam Clerk.
Majority Leader Harcum.
Yes.
Minority Leader Mazzano. Here. Ms. Borgia.
Here.
Mr. Burrows. Here. Mr. Gelfarb.
Aye.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Present.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Perez. Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Ms. Shimsky.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Chairman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, we'd move the consent agenda with the following proposed revisions. On page 3, item number 2, sever. On page 4, number 7, excuse me, that would go to committees on legislation and government operations. On page 7, items 19 and 20 should also go to the Committee on Legislation.
Mr. Mazzano. That's Ms. Shimsky. She's not here, but we're going to concur. So we're on consent agenda right now. Thank you so much for concurring, Ms. Shimsky. Mr. Harcum.
Yes, item 2 would over.
Item 2 has been overed. Mr. Harcum, on the minutes approval.
Yes, while we're here, Mr. Chair, thank you. We would move the minutes of the Monday, September 24th meeting that was held at 7 p.m.
Without objection, members, so ordered. Madam Clerk, public comment.
Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. I'll call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left and wait behind the black ropes. The first speaker is Susanna Glidden. As she's coming down, I'll call the names of the rest of the speakers. Marion Rose, Regina Riley, Ellen Weinecker, Mackenzie Schoonmaker, Ed Riley.
Good evening. I'm Susanna Glidden, Croton Watershed Clean Water Coalition. Good to see some familiar faces here tonight. Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio are experiencing devastating environmental destruction of their water, forest, food sheds, and air from extreme energy extraction for natural gas in the Marcellus Shale of high-volume horizontal hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, a process for yet another fossil fuel causing global warming that should be prohibited from happening in New York, in the nation, and around the world. Energy efficiency, conservation, renewable energies, and their transportation grids should instead be used on a massive scale and fast to save our planet and provide long-lasting jobs Americans need. Incredibly, there is no means of safe disposal of either the dangerous chemicals added to the water to frack or the produced water that comes back up with the gas from thousands of feet below that contains heavy metals like arsenic and lead, dangerously high levels of radioactive radium-226 and 228 present in the Marcellus Shale, and very salty brine. And so the gas industry leaves half of this toxic brew underground to later seep up fault lines into our aquifers in holding ponds with a flimsy plastic liner, illegally dumps it in streams and rivers, dilutes it in sewage treatment plants unequipped to render it benign, thus spewing out both undertreated sewage and frack waste into rivers that provide drinking water for downstream municipalities, or spreads it on roads as a de-icer or dust suppressant, an environmental and public health catastrophe. Our 7 Westchester County sewage plants are targeted as potential recipients. Not only is fracking not classified as hazardous as it should be, but New York State DEC shockingly approves using frack brine from vertical drilling for road spreading by applying merely for a beneficial use determination. This brine is no less dangerous than from high-volume horizontal drilling. It's only less in volume. We do not want our children, water, and land here in Westchester exposed to any part of it. At a time in history when our counties are not receiving from the states what we formerly were in financial aid because of the fiscal mess financial institutions foisted on us, it might be tempting for a county to accept the highly contaminated and dangerous brine that the industry is trying to get rid of by giving it away for free. Other counties are passing legislation to prohibit road spreading or sewage treatment, and we must do the same quickly before winter, please. A politician's primary mandate is to protect their constituents' public health and safety. We look to you and we thank you for fulfilling that responsibility by passing legislation similar to Ulster counties to keep us safe. Thank you so much.
Marion Rose.
Good evening. My name is Marion Rose. I've been a Westchester resident for 60 years. I'm a director of the Croton Watershed Clean Water Coalition, a not-for-profit membership organization whose goal is the preservation and enhancement of our irreplaceable water resources here and throughout New York State. Thank you for this opportunity to comment on the critical issue of disposal of high-volume hydrofracturing or fracking waste here in Westchester County. The spreading of fracking fluids, the products of drilling for natural gas in New York State's Marcellus Shale, on Westchester roads for de-icing purposes would be a severe threat to public health and safety. Nor is it possible to dispose of these through treatment at our publicly owned treatment works, since none are capable of properly treating these fluids. The disposal of fracking fluids by either one of these methods must be prohibited. These fluids are brought to the surface along with the gas from the hundreds of millions of years old strata several miles below the Earth's surface. One component, the brine, contains extremely high levels of salts useful for de-icing roads, heavy metals such as cadmium, and most concerning of all, high levels of radioactive materials such as radium-226. This isotope of radium decays into radon, an alpha particle emitter, and the second highest cause of lung cancer in the US. Radium-226 has a half-life of 1,600 years, or about 80 generations. We should be careful about digging it up from where it has been safely under control by natural means for hundreds of millions of years. Unfortunately, the DEC would allow brine spreading on our roads after the granting of a beneficial use determination, even though in New York State, Marcellus Shale wells contain levels of radium-226 that can be thousands of times above the maximum contaminant level of 15 picocuries per liter, as accepted by the DEC. Let's remember that most roads, including county roads, abut residential areas, schools, town parks, and other areas that are particularly exposed to human activity. Are we to be subjected to stormwater runoff, carrying this unhealthy mixture of chemical and radioactive waste on our lawns and schoolyards, and trekked on our driveways on the wheels of cars and trucks for possibly many hundreds of years? And equally serious is the inevitable stormwater runoff into our streams, aquifer, recharge areas, wetlands, ponds, and lakes during storm events, poisoning our waters. We must and will do everything possible to prevent fracking waste on our roads, and we hope to get help from this, from your honorable board. Thank you so much.
Regina Riley.
I'm Regina Riley from the 9th Legislative District, the co-coordinator of Women's Equality Day Reformed. There's a research that was done on marriage regarding child poverty, and it was done by the Heritage Foundation, and it found that single-parent female-headed families are 37.1% more likely to be in poverty than in a married two-parent family, which is only 6.8%. They found that even when the married and non-married families are of the same race and educational level are compared, there's still this wide variation between the poverty of the single-parent family and that of a married two-parent family. The solution that was found was that government and culture must clearly communicate to the critical importance of marriage to reduce future poverty and other social ills. Secondly, youth at risk of becoming unwed parents deserve the knowledge and skills to prepare them for the task of bearing and raising children. Third, welfare should be changed to encourage rather than penalize marriage, as currently it does. And the second piece about people, young folks, getting the right education about these things. There is an organization called Healthy Respect, and Dr. Nancy Coppola is the CEO. And she and other members of the New York City Parent Choice Coalition gathered at the steps of City Hall in late September to demand an end to the controversial Plan B that was providing powerful hormonal contraceptives to New York City high school students. In the CATCH program, as it's called, has already implemented this in 13 high schools in New York City's by the New York City Health and New York City Department of Education. The proponents say that, or claim, that emergency contraception and birth control are a logical progression in being responsive to the reproductive health of young women. Yet studies suggest that this could not be farther from the truth, said Dr. Coppola. Quote, emergency contraceptives have not proven to reduce teen pregnancies. In fact, I can say in the states where there is a contraceptive program, like here in New York, versus a abstinence only, the abstinence only have a 50% success rate and or failure rate, and the ones that have contraception, as in New York State, have a 53% pregnancy rate. So that hasn't proved to be so, and it hasn't for years and years and years. This risk in taking behavior, this increase in risk-taking behaviors, puts adolescents at a greater risk of sexually transmitted infections and diseases that can permanently damage their reproductive organs, leading to infertility and sterility. I challenge, this is her quote, the Department of Education and Department of Health to explain how this is in the best interest of our children's health. The pharmaceutical companies themselves said that this Plan B and those others that are 4 to 10 times stronger than the average daily birth control pill should not be given to children under the age of 18. They stipulate that. This is dangerous to them. It can cause serious carcinogenic and hormonal sequelae that will last for them for life. So there were a number of people who were involved in this City Hall thing, including State Senator Ruben Diaz, former Assemblyman Michael Benjamin, Dr. Miriam Grossman, and City Councilman Fernando Cabrera. We're interested in the environment always, but how about the environment of the children? And all the children who are dying from these various things, 1.2 million children a year are killed by abortion and abortifacients. Thank you.
Ellen Weiniger.
Thank you to the Westchester County Board of Legislators for the opportunity to address the board regarding legislation that has been proposed to ban the application of hydraulic fracturing waste on county roads and to ban the acceptance of hydraulic fracturing waste at wastewater treatment facilities in Westchester County. My name is Ellen Weininger. I'm the Educational Outreach Coordinator for Grassroots Environmental Education, a nonprofit environmental health organization that works in the tri-state area and nationwide. We're pleased that the board is considering legislation that will address fracking waste from shale gas drilling operations. There's no practical disposal plan in place for the billions of gallons of radioactive toxic waste that is generated from this technology. Many of the people that spoke ahead of me provided a great deal of information, so I'm going to just jump ahead to some points that need to be mention. Horizontal hydrofracking in New York's Marcellus Shale will generate significant amounts of radioactive wastewater, which is classified as industrial waste, even though it exceeds criteria for hazardous waste and has many federal exemptions from federal regulations. Levels of naturally occurring radioactive material are higher in the Marcellus Shale than in any other shale basin where hydrofracking operations are being conducted. Horizontal wells within the Marcellus Shale increases exposure to naturally occurring radioactive materials and therefore increases radiation levels of resulting wastewater. Levels of total radium in the wastewater from 11 existing vertical wells, gas wells in New York, averaged 8,433 picocuries. This figure exceeds the EPA's maximum contaminant level of drinking water, which is 5 picocuries for combined radium-226 and 228, by more than 1,000-fold. Federal law does not require regular testing for radioactivity in public drinking water systems, which could prevent the discovery of contaminated water supplies from radioactive pollutants prior to human consumption by the wider population. Exposure to radium can result in anemia, cataracts, cancer, especially bone cancer, and death. Radium-226 emits gamma radiation, which can travel fairly long distances through air, raising risks for cancer in communities. And we spoke about the 7 wastewater treatment facilities here in Westchester County. We know that these treatment plants, according to numerous leading scientific experts, are not designed to treat chemicals, contaminants, and radioactive materials produced from fracking operations. High bromide levels in fracking wastewater are especially problematic since they can react during water treatment to form brominated trihalomethanes, which are linked to bladder and colon cancers and are also associated with birth defects. Spreading radioactive toxic wastewater on roads for de-icing and dust control will expose drivers, passengers, and pedestrians and contaminate nearby surface water, residential areas, and schools and farmland. This presents radioactive particles which may become airborne, and runoff from snowmelt and rain presents problems and will be inhaled and ingested by humans and animals. Ultimately, our request is that this legislation, this critical legislation, be expedited with the Ulster County legislation as one of the most important models. Whether or not New York State proceeds with hydrofracking is not the issue, because fracking wastewater is being transported currently from outside of New York State and is being brought in and dumped or being brought to wastewater treatment facilities and used for road spreading as we speak. So winter's upon us. We appreciate your critical expedition of this legislation. Thank you.
Mackenzie Schoonmaker.
Hello, I'm Mackenzie Schoonmaker. I'm a staff attorney with Riverkeeper. Riverkeeper is a member-supported watchdog organization dedicated to protecting the drinking water supply of 9 million New York City and Hudson Valley residents. My testimony today also addresses the county board's proposed legislation, which would ban acceptance of hydraulic fracturing, what I will refer to as fracking waste, at treatment plants within the county, and ban application of fracking waste on county roads. Riverkeeper commends the board for considering legislation to protect county residents from the dangers posed by improperly treated and repurposed fracking waste. When a well is fracked, millions of gallons of fluid laced with hundreds of chemicals, many of which are carcinogens, are injected underground. Much of this chemical fluid flows back as waste. In addition, fracking mobilizes naturally occurring radioactive materials and brine, which come up the well along with the gas and also must be disposed of. With the required permits, this toxic waste is allowed to be sent to the same facilities that treat typical wastewater from our homes. The primary reason this is permissible is that despite the fact that fracking waste is hazardous, it is not actually defined as hazardous waste under state and federal laws as a result of special exemptions given to the oil and gas industry. Yet we know this waste can wreak havoc if sent to treatment plants. An investigative report from the New York Times showed that over a 3-year period in Pennsylvania, over 1 billion gallons of fracking waste was sent to treatment plants not equipped to handle it, which in turn discharged the waste into Pennsylvania's waterways. The board thus can take a significant step in protecting Westchester citizens by not allowing fracking waste to go to treatment plants within the county. In addition, as you've heard today, New York State currently allows brine from low-volume fracking operations to be spread on roads if special permission is obtained from a regional Department of Environmental Conservation office. To maintain this permission, brine only needs to be tested for radioactivity once per year. This is completely inadequate to ensure the safety of citizens, as the radioactivity of the brine applied will vary greatly depending on which well is the source. Ulster County has banned the spreading of this waste on its roads, and Dutchess County is considering similar legislation. We urge the board to follow suit as expeditiously as possible. Riverkeeper looks forward to supporting the board and passing this critical legislation. I have handed out my testimony today, attached to which is our proposed version of the legislation, which we would be happy to discuss further with the board anytime. Thank you very much.
Ed Riley.
My name is Ed Riley. I'm from Croton, the United Pro-Life Committee on Gannett. It's the 33rd time I'm asking the pro-abortion legislators in the majority Democratic Party, specifically Mrs. Myers, Mrs. Borgia, Mrs. Shimsky, to investigate Planned Parenthood and how they conduct business in Westchester County. They have a pattern of abuse, especially the administration of RU46, exploiting minor children sent to them by schools and their so-called counselors. Looking through the papers, I don't feel very optimistic about this, because on one of the flyers Planned Parenthood puts out, who do we see here wrapped in the arms of Rena Schifrin and Daphne Phillipson, one of the biggest anti-Catholic bigots in Westchester County? We see Judy Myers, Adam Bradley. Maybe he's part of the Democratic War on Women along with Bill Clinton. Adam Bradley. I must have thrown him out by now. Tim Iadoni, Nita Lowy, Andrea Stewart Cousins. Let's see here. Amy Paulin, Noam Bramson. Do you think these people will ever seriously investigate how Planned Parenthood conducts business? I don't think so. Just a couple of news flashes. You may notice that another state senator is going to go to jail. Now you say, well, that guy's from the Bronx. No, he doesn't. He lives in Mamaroneck. You may also notice, this is not new news, you know that the state of Illinois is controlled by the left wing of the Democratic Party. It's where Obama comes from. Every dirty trick ever invented by mankind came out of Chicago. It would be nice to know they must have really done something bad, because the abortionist Caroline Hope from Planned Parenthood, this is the state of Illinois, this is not Indiana, this is not Texas, where there's 60,000 incidents of Medicaid fraud against Planned Parenthood. This is the state, the corrupt state of Illinois, suspended payments to Caroline Hoke, who is the second largest recipient of Medicaid funds out of 30,000 physicians in this state. Now, Planned Parenthood said they did nothing wrong. No, we didn't do nothing wrong. Well, Crane's Business here said they didn't do anything wrong, but they have to repay the money. Didn't do anything wrong, but have to repay the money. And therefore, Crane's Business is skeptical. Now, by the way, it's an interesting item about this article on Planned Parenthood. This was summarized by a Jill Stanek. Jill Stanek is the one who developed the Infant Born Alive Act in the state of Illinois. Infants born alive after an abortion, where they're entitled to medical care. What famous person voted against that bill 4 times? I guess it was Barack Obama, who allowed Cicely Richards to host the Democratic convention in Charlotte. No wonder they're never prosecuted. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum, we're at the time for the public hearings.
Yes, Mr. Chair, at this time I would move to suspend our normal course of business for the purpose of conducting 3 public hearings.
Madam Clerk.
Notices of tonight's hearings were published in the Journal News. I have proof of publication which is available for inspection in my office during regular business hours. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. The first public hearing is on a resolution relating to the issuance by the Colorado Educational and Cultural Facilities Authority of its tax-exempt bond for the benefit of Iona Prep School in the aggregate principal amount of $9 million. I have 1 card, John Verney.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is John Verney. I am chairman of the board of Iona Prep, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. Iona Prep, I'm a 1980 graduate of Iona Prep. Your colleague, Mr. Maizano, was a 1981 graduate of Iona Prep. We are here tonight because we're seeking bond financing as indicated from the Colorado Authority. Iona Prep is buying Iona Grammar School. Although they share a common name, they have separate educational corporations, and so those 2 are being merged. The purpose of the merger is for Iona Prep to acquire Iona Grammar School to strengthen the programs at Iona Grammar School. Secondly, to continue to be able to use the fields. Iona Prep has a successful athletic program. Both football, soccer teams, and baseball teams, other teams, have done very well and want to continue to do well. In fact, did Westchester proud by beating St. Anthony's out in Long Island, and we want to continue that up. We have to play this school in the Bronx called Fordham coming up, and we hope to do well against Fordham. So we need the field space. And third is that we are helping our founding order, the Irish Christian Brothers, cash out some of the equity in their property so that they can take care of the health care costs, something I'm sure this board is dealing with all the time. There used to be 300 brothers with 50 brothers that were old and 250 that are working. That triangle has flipped upside down, and now there's 250 that are old and only 50 that are working. And so the economics are very tough, as this board knows, dealing with healthcare costs. So for those reasons, we're seeking this bond financing. We had an opportunity to meet with the Budget Committee, and we thank the Budget Committee for that opportunity. Just to make clear that this is only to hold a public hearing in this area, and that in no way does it obligate Westchester County in any way. These bonds are being issued by Colorado, and at the urging of the Budget Committee, we are signing an indemnification agreement so that there is no way that Iona Prep could ever be, or the county could ever be held responsible for Iona Prep's debts. So thank you for the opportunity to have the public hearing. Thank you for the opportunity to continue the mission of Iona Prep and Iona Grammar School. We're looking forward to our 100th year celebration in 2016 to continue the important work we do in this community. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We move that this public hearing be closed.
This public hearing is closed. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing number 2 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations, Government Operations, and Environment and Energy on a proposed modification to the Sawmill Valley Sanitary Sewer District by the removal of 3 parcels of property located in the town of Mount Pleasant. Mr. Chairman, I have no cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to close the public hearing.
His public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing number 3 from the Committees on Government Reform, Efficiency and Savings, Legislation, and Community Services on a local law amending the laws of Westchester by adding a new Chapter 177 relating to the establishment of a Westchester County Office for Women. Mr. Chairman, I have no cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would move to close this third public hearing and resume our normal course of business.
Thank you, Mr. Harkin. This public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk, regular order business.
Standing committees. Item number 5007 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations, Government Operations, and Environment and Energy. A resolution determining there will be no significant impact on the environment from the removal of 3 parcels of property from the Sawmill Valley Sanitary Sewer District located in the town of Mount Pleasant.
Over.
Item 5008 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations, Government Operations, and Environment and Energy, an act to modify the Sawmill Valley Sanitary Sewer District by the removal of 3 parcels of property located in the town of Mount Pleasant.
Over.
Over, Mr. Jenkins. Item 5035 from the Committees on Government Reform, Efficiency and Savings, Legislation, and Community Services, a local law amending the laws of Westchester County by adding a new Chapter 177 relating to the establishment of a Westchester County Office for Women.
Over.
Over, Mr. Jenkins. Item 4888 from the Committee on Appointments is the appointment of Albert Annunziata as the Central County Region Representative Member of the Westchester County Housing Opportunity Commission for a term to expire at the pleasure of the County Executive.
Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Annunziata has a very long history of being a passionate and effective advocate for increasing the supply of affordable housing in Westchester County, and it is on the strength of that record that I move his approval here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item. Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote, please.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz. Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 15-0. Item 4893 from the Committee on Appointments is the appointment of Linda Press-Wolf as an at-large member of the Westchester County Housing Opportunity Commission for a term to expire at the pleasure of the County Executive.
Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Appointments Committee interviewed Ms. Wolf last week. We found her to be knowledgeable and thoughtful about the issue, and I move her approval here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 4911 from the Committee on Appointments is the appointment of Jacqueline Bevel as a member of the Westchester County African American Advisory Board for a term to expire December 31st, 2012.
Ms. Shimsky.
Ms. Beville also interviewed with the Appointments Committee. She proved herself to be very thoughtful and very caring about the subject matter, and I'm therefore proud to move her approval here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5078 from the Committee on Appointments, appointment of Thomas Koshy as a member of the Westchester County Fair Housing Board for a term to expire December 31st, 2013.
Ms. Shimsky.
Mr. Koshy's experience and passion for the subject matter shone through in his interview, and I'm therefore proud to move his approval here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5041 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Public Safety and Security, a bond act authorizing the issuance of $700,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project BIT 27 upgrade jail management system.
Mrs. Myers.
Yes. This is an upgrade of the jail management system that is much anticipated and much needed. It provides case management systems, alerts, assessments, trust account coverage, program services, everything that's inmate related. And the Budget and Appropriations Committee thoroughly vetted this project, this upgrade, as did Public Safety and Security, and therefore so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item, unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5508 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, an act authorizing the county attorney by and through the Department of Environmental Facilities to settle the administrative claims of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation concerning the alleged violations of the Title V permit issued to the county for the Yonkers Joint Wastewater Treatment Plant by entering into an order on consent.
Mrs. Myers.
Yes, this has to do with a penalty that has been imposed upon the county for some flaring at the Yonkers Joint Wastewater Treatment Plant in the amount of $25,000 up front and $48,000 that will be held in abeyance, which will not have to be paid if all of the permits are granted. The wastewater treatment plant, the Department of Environmental Facilities, has applied for these variances that have to do with stack testing and the requirement to flare off some of the gases. And they have been assured, actually, the requests have been granted, and so that final payment will not be due, but the $25,000 is due. This was also vetted by Government Operations. I will turn this over to Government Ops.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers said, this is a violation of the Title V permit. There's two components to it. The use of operating a fourth non-permitted flare and the release of allowable nitrous oxide and nitrogen dioxide emissions, which were a result of the operations of the plant using diesel only instead of the combination of diesel and biological fuel, which is typically used for 1 hour as the plant was charging up and 1 hour as the plant was charging down, although the DEC and the county's law department did negotiate this particular settlement. As Legislator Myers said, the permit modification for the fourth flare they've gone through the approval process with the DEC, and that is going forward. We were able to ask quite a bit of questions about this in the Government Operations Committee, and now we know a little bit more about how this plant operates, and we recommend that it do be approved by this board.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5542 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of $90,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project RB03C, June Road over Titicus River, South Salem.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, North Salem, actually. This is a bond for $90,000 to finance the design of this bridge reconstruction. The design will be done in-house and should take approximately a year to finish. This was a bridge that was built in 1925, has a 4.89 rating, but apparently has significant scouring of the abutments at the present time, and needs this work in order not to deteriorate further. This was also approved through Government Operations. I will pass this over to Legislator Borgia.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers said, this is a bridge that the Department of Public Transportation has recommended we move forward on these repairs. The annual daily traffic count is 600, and the condition rating is 4.89, which is higher than some other bridges that we are in the process of repairing and looking to get plans for repair. However, because of the specifics of the operations of this bridge and because of the types of repairs that need to be done, the DPW has moved it up in their schedule of bridge repair, mainly because this is preventative work that will save money for the county in the long run. And this is also a significant roadway in the North Salem area, and I believe that Legislator Harcum has some comments about the local needs of that area.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add that this board, in its wisdom, passed some bonds over 2 years ago to repave June Road. That work was just finished at the end of the summer. The local supervisor was much appreciative, but it seems foolhardy of us to pave this extensive section of road and then leave the bridge. So I congratulate Department of DPW for acting on it now. We have had other incidents along the Titicus River of scouring over the last couple of years. I've been in touch with several property owners. Their banks have been washed out. The bank next to the county park, Sal Prezioso Park. So the last couple of years, the rains and the storms have been intense. A lot of the bridges, both on commercial streets and individual driveway bridges, have scoured or even washed out altogether. So we thank the department for acting now. We thank this body for acting now. It's a good investment in our infrastructure, and it'll save dollars in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Other members? Without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5547 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations is a resolution approving the issuance by the Colorado Educational and Cultural Facilities Authority of one or more series of its tax-exempt revenue bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9 million for the Iona Prep School project.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is an item that was brought to the attention of Budget and Appropriations by Legislator Maizano, and as stated, is a resolution that would approve the issuance of these tax-exempt revenue bonds by the Colorado Educational and Cultural Facilities Authority in order for Iona Preparatory School to purchase Iona Grammar School. The concern of the committee originally had to do with why this was being done within Westchester County as opposed to the host municipality, New Rochelle. There were also a number of concerns about the indemnity that would cover Westchester County, and indeed an indemnity agreement was added by the Colorado Council to further protect Westchester County in the case of any liability. The committee discussed this fully for a period of 2 weeks, and at this point I would turn this over to Legislator Maizano as his baby. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Mr. Maizano.
Thank you very much, Legislator Myers, and thank you for moving this through the Budget Committee so quickly, so efficiently, and to the chair as well when I originally brought this issue to you. John Verney laid it out pretty well at the microphone when he spoke at the public hearing. In a nutshell, I do want you all to know that although we're not paying for the $9 million in bonds, this Colorado Educational and Cultural Facilities Authority is, all we did was hold the hearing and pass this resolution. You should know that for New Rochelle, my community, I represent it along with Sheila and Judy, you're saving a school. Iona Grammar was heading to be knocked out of existence because they were into bankruptcy. And the Iona Prep community, which John Verney was a leader on, pulled together the financing to save the school. And I think anyone from Southern Westchester knows how many generations of children have attended one of the top flight Catholic grammar schools in the region, if not the state. And that school was threatened because of the bankruptcy. Iona Prep stepped in, and by our board participating tonight, by allowing this hearing to be held, to pass this resolution in support, which is required by the IRS regulations, You are part now of saving Iona Grammar, and as Iona Prep grad, I want to say thank you to my colleagues for considering this, for asking tough questions, for moving this along. It's very, very important to the Iona community, so thank you. Thank you to my colleagues for this. And I do want you to know that I invited Ken Jenkins to the next Iona Prep football game where they play Fordham. Ken went to Fordham Prep. Iona is predicted to win, and I want you to know Ken has not emailed me back yet if he'll be attending the game, because I will be sitting next to Ken throughout that game, giving him a hard time. So I hope you're going to come to that game, and I hope you'll all vote for the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzano. Other members on the item? I just want to say, Mr. Mazzano, although this is going from Iona Preparatory, I will be supporting this particular item. And again, I think that one of the things that people should pay attention to is that this particular financing by the Colorado Educational and Cultural Facilities Authority issuing the tax-exempt revenue bonds for a school is something that is a model that people might want to consider here in Westchester as well for other particular projects that are school-based projects as well. So, Madam Clerk, unless there's objection, members, unless you'd like a long roll call vote.
Long roll call, please, Mr.
All right, we'll have a long roll call vote on this item, Madam Clerk. Long roll call, please.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Yes. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Chimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 15-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Item 5554 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations is an act authorizing the county attorney and commissioner of finance to compromise the liability of Westchester County to pay workers' compensation benefits to a former county employee in lieu of future payments.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a workers' compensation case, and actually is one that is actually where the compensation is reduced to a lump sum and is actually split with another employer. The individual worked for two different employers, one of which was Westchester County, and this settlement was negotiated and accepted and discussed with the Board of Legislators, with the Board of the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, and so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5562 from the Committee on Budget Appropriations is an act authorizing the county attorney to settle the lawsuit of Abdu Monroe versus County of Westchester police officers John Jane Doe.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this actually was a federal lawsuit regarding civil rights and racial discrimination against Westchester County police officers. It was thoroughly reviewed and discussed in Budget and Appropriations, actually in executive session, and then voted upon once we went back into our regular session. And this settlement includes the council fees and was an agreed upon amount. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5563 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations is an act entitled, an act authorizing the settlement of the lawsuit entitled Robert McGinnis versus County of Westchester and Anne Marie Berg in her official capacity as Commissioner of Finance.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a case actually that arose from a dispute over the administration of a long-term disability program by the Department of Finance. And the plaintiff was a former employee, and they have agreed to settle this. We discussed it in executive session and voted upon it, and Budget and Appropriations felt that this was a good settlement. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5564 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations is an act authorizing the county attorney to compromise 23 claims made on behalf of Westchester County to be reimbursed for overpayments in connection with Medicaid prescription drugs provided to residents of Westchester County.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is actually a good news story. This good news in terms of what was finally resolved. There were 23 claims against pharmaceutical companies in connection with Medicaid prescription drugs provided to Westchester County residents. And its successful negotiation or compromise has resulted in revenue to the county of $1.1 million, money going to Department of Social Services. And the Budget and Appropriations Committee felt this was terrific and moved it to the floor of the BOL. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5565 from the Committee on Budget Appropriations, an act authorizing the designation and retention of private counsel pursuant to the laws of Westchester County relating to the lawsuit entitled The Town of Bedford and Lisbeth Fumagalli versus Douglas Colty and Reginald Lafayette as the election commissioners for Westchester County Board of Elections.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is actually a suit that has been settled, and therefore the approval of this legislation would allow the attorneys who handled it to be paid. And this had to do with the filling of the seat of town justice in the town of Bedford, and a suit was brought against the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections actually prevailed. The one condition that was set upon the approval of this legislation by Budget and Appropriations Committee was that a do not exceed clause, of $15,000 per attorney was asked to be inserted into the legislation. I do not have in front of me the changed copy, but I have been told that this has been done. Therefore, Budget and Appropriations would urge the board to accept this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. We're just checking on the legislation to make sure that that is the legislation that is currently before us. Madam Clerk, could we just ensure that that language modification has been there for the legislation itself?
It would be on the last page.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Myers, you suggested that modification would have been on the last page of the actual legislation?
Yes, I believe there were blanks left there for dollar insertions, at least on the copy that was signed by the Board of Legislators, or by the B&A committee. Is it there?
Right.
They are confirming that right now.
Seems to have been confirmed.
It is confirmed. Members, without objection, will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, can we do a long roll call vote on that? I apologize. I was chatting with the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. A long roll call vote.
Mr. Harcum.
No.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Breckman. Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 14-1. Item 5587 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations, and Government Operations is a resolution determining there will be no significant adverse impact on the environment from the county's financing of the Ellendale development.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, I would like to preface this by saying anyone who says that government can't move quickly should look at this piece of legislation, which came to the Board of Legislators on September 24th and has made it through 3 different committees before coming here tonight on October 15th. So we have all suffered whiplash from this, but nonetheless, we are urging board approval for a project known as 525 Ellendale Avenue in the village of Rybrook that would provide, there are 2 acts and 1 resolution, that provides 4 one-bedroom condos, home ownership units of fair and affordable housing to 80% area median income at sales prices around $150,000 each, that would be located at 525 Ellendale Avenue in the village of Rybrook. We have been assured in all 3 committees that this is located in a very an area that is very convenient to all forms of transportation and shopping and schooling and doctor's offices, and it does have a time expediency factor associated with it, which is why we did move in due haste. And I would like to pass this over to Legislator Borgia for the government operations part of this. Thank you.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers said, this is 4 units of affordable housing, and it located in the in Rybrook. However, the school district is actually the Portchester School District. It is located close to public transportation and to amenities, shopping, etc. The units, there are 4 units. The 2 on the bottom floor are approximately 700 to 730 square feet. The ones on the top floor are a little bit larger, 775 to 780 square feet. The units are using the fair and affordable housing money at the rate of $300,000 and home for construction costs at $460,000. Some of the FAH work does go into site work, including some sidewalks and other amenities. It does look like a very a project that fits very well into the surrounding communities, and government operations did have a chance to ask a lot of questions about this, and we're satisfied with the answer, so we're going to recommend it moves forward.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item, Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank the Planning Department, whose prompt answers to the committee's queries made the expedition of this matter possible.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Other members on this item? The only thing that I wanted to mention on this, Ms. Myers talked about the speed by which it came through because of the time constraints of funding that surrounded this particular project. I just wanted to note that we had this particular project that went in front of our budget department, which was signed out or signed by the budget department on August 29th of 2012 for this particular item, which means that it was in the planning board's hands at least sometime in August, and it may actually have been prior to that. And if we could continue to ask the members of our administration not to hold these particular things to the very end when they have significant time constraints from the state, that would be much appreciated from trying to get these things through. We had this and another set of legislation that's also dealing with some housing items that have been held before they come to the board. So we just continue to ask for those things to be clarified. Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfard. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan. Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams. Yes. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 15-0. Item 5583 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, an act authorizing the county to purchase approximately 0.18 acres of real property in the village of Rye Brook and subsequently convey said property for the purpose of providing for affordable ownership units that affirmatively further fair housing and related facilities that will remain affordable for a period of not less than 50 years.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is the first of the two acts associated with Ellendale Avenue. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. As previously discussed, unless there's objection, members, we will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5586 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act to authorize the issuance of bonds of the county in an amount not to exceed $200,000 to finance property acquisition costs as part of capital project BPL 50 Fair and Affordable Housing, and amend if necessary the county's 2012 capital budget and statement of need prepared by the law firm of Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is the actual bond act for the issuance of bonds in the amount of $200,000. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Mr. Gelfarb. Thank you, Mr. Gelfarb. Other members? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5604 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of $660,000 in bonds of Westchester County to finance capital project BIT 4A, Employee Productivity Systems 2008 through 2012.
Madam Clerk, this item is being recommitted to make the modifications that we need to make on it.
Item 5605 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations is an act amending the 2012 County Capital Budget Appropriation for Capital Project BIT 3B, Desktop Systems 2012 through 2016.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a capital budget amendment to the 2012 budget so that we can issue up to $100,000 in bonds to finance the desktop systems IT upgrade, which would actually impact the district attorney's office. We have been informed of the long-time inability, actually, of the district attorney's office to communicate easily via computer with the rest of the county's computers, the rest of the county government's computers. And this is the beginning, and there is another bond also associated with this that will actually bring them up to speed and provide the software and hardware that's necessary to accomplish this. So therefore, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members, on this item, let's go on discussion for both items 5605 and 5606, which are the capital budget amendment, I believe, as opposed to appropriation, and the actual bond act for BIT 3B. That's items 5605 and 5606. Members on these items? All right, on item 5605, without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5606, from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, is a bond act authorizing the issuance of $100,000 in bonds of Westchester County to finance capital project BIT-3B desktop systems 2012 through 2016.
Ms. Myers.
So moved.
It's previously discussed, so moved. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5544, from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, is a resolution setting a public hearing on a local law authorizing the County of Westchester to enter into a 10-year lease agreement with 15 South Fifth Avenue for approximately 22,000 square feet of space located at 15 South Fifth Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, for Westchester Community College.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, I would recommend that we set a public hearing for October 29th at 7:30 p.m. for this item.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the setting of the public hearing. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5425, from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, is an act authorizing Westchester County to purchase and convey approximately 2.06 acres of real property in the Village of Ardsley for the purpose of providing 17 affordable ownership units that affirmatively further fair housing.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a project that actually has been a long time in planning, actually, in the actual town of Greenburgh. It was actually auctioned off by the town of Greenburgh for affordable housing a number of years ago. It has made its way forward and is now being presented to the Board of Legislators for the development of 17 fair and affordable units for households at or below the 80% area median income, including 15 two-bedroom units and 2 three-bedroom units. It also includes 5 workforce units that are not included in the county's equation, but they will actually be in the building as well. We were told, so therefore we're paying basically 17/22 of the purchase price, or $935,000. And this we had some significant questioning about the number of jobs this would provide. And all told, it does bring a total of 86 jobs to the county once this is in development. And again, this would be for affordable housing for 50 years, no less than 50 years. I would like to turn this over to Government Operations.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This, as Legislator Myers said, this development is in the Village of Ardsley. It is on Route 9A, so near county bus routes, near other public transportation. It exists across from the county-owned Macy Park. There's shopping center within walking distance. The financing, as Ms. Myers alluded to, was complicated, but we were able to review it very carefully in Government Operations, Capital Project Subcommittee, and in the Budget Committee. So we believe that this project's time has finally come. So we're going to recommend that this moves forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Water Wheel project has been a bipartisan dream of mayors of the Village of Ardsley, which is where the property is located, for many years. The property itself has laid fallow since about 1992 or 1993, when the Water Wheel restaurant, for which it is named, went out of business. Since that time, various officials had a vision for creating workforce housing there, which are what the 5 units not included against the county's fair and affordable housing total are going to be earmarked for. They will be housing for emergency responders, teachers, employees in the village of Ardsley. We have had only the last chapter of what was a very long saga in this. There were some complications concerning the computation of the purchase price for the land. During these discussions, it became clear that the formula normally used, which was to reimburse the local governments for their in-rem costs and back taxes, was for some reasons of questionable equity here, largely because there were lost opportunity costs, changes in market value, and so on over the course of the many years in which this had lain fallow. And second of all, there was also the question of whether the formula that we had been using was legally required or not. It does appear that it is not legally required. It was more in the nature of custom. And I look forward, after this vote is taken, to explore the issue of coming up with clear direction for our local governments as to the formula for reimbursement in these situations. But I thank my colleagues for helping move this forward. It will be good for the county. It will be good for the people who need the housing. It will be good for the village of Ardsley and the town of Greenburgh. And I look forward to its passage here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item. On this particular item, as Ms. Shimsky pointed out, there were several issues on it, but members, just so we know that we're on discussion on items 24, 25, 26, and 27. I'm sorry? 27, which are ID numbers respectively 5425, 5426, 5427, and 5552. This particular property is going through many gyrations, as Legislator Shimsky had identified, even with her predecessor at this particular property.
And I believe his predecessor as well.
And maybe his predecessor as well. I would believe that with this particular property that was known as the Water Wheel, there were three different items on it. This particular property came in front of the county several years ago. For those of you that maintain those records, it was part of the housing, the Department of Planning's housing plans as far as the potential of funding such property. But the planning department's policy, as stated on the record, had been to only reimburse those municipalities for their costs, their in-rem costs. On this particular property, we were given the number, at least from the town of Greenburgh, of $373,000 for this particular property, which was a huge concern since the property went on an RFP at $1.2 million. It was done first in 2009, in November of 2009, and there were no bidders for that property at $1.2 million. Then in 2010, with the change of administrations, there was some opportunity again where those, I guess, 22 total units, 17 being potential opportunities for the affordable, fair and affordable housing program out of the housing stipulation agreement would be eligible. That's where problem number 2 comes in. Problem number 2 is that in our housing stipulation agreement is inconsistent with the tax code of the county of Westchester. In the housing stipulation agreement, it states that the municipalities must offer their in-rem properties to the county. However, it appears from that particular language that it may be after someone, we have the right of first refusal on those particular piece of properties. So someone can bid, and then we would have an opportunity to have the right of first refusal, which we exercised on this particular property. So as Ms. Shimsky clearly identified, that we have to deal with that in legislation that requires the in-rem properties, that if a municipality has an in-rem property for simply purposes of fair and affordable housing, that those must be first presented to the county. And for you financial folks and attorneys, I believe they call that the upset price, so that we are not, in essence, bidding against ourselves. In this particular agreement, I think we all need to make clear that, again, there is some questions on how much money the Village of Ardsley is actually due out of that $373,000. That $373,000 appears to be a number from the town of Greenberg as of September 12, 2011. So there's questions on that particular item. But again, everyone should be clear on this, is that the out-of-pocket cost for the town, at least, are $373,000, and the total purchase price of this property is $1.2 million, keeping it consistent with the past practices of this board as far as purchasing the properties, and then basically working with a not-profit group and selling it to them for $1 in cooperation with the administration, that we came up with a formula that would suit everyone. So I believe that this particular process time has come on this particular one, but we certainly have to clarify those pieces of our policy, because there was a contention that there was no policy on the prices that we paid to the municipalities on in-rem properties. And just for clarity, those sections would be in our tax code, specifically in Chapter 283, where it talks about the sale of, or the seizing of property through those tax liens, and how much the municipality can go out for those properties, which is basically the cost to the town of taxes. So they could not go out and they would not have been able to secure this property for $1.2 million. They would have only been able to secure it for $373,000, because that was the out-of-town cost. With all that said, Madam Clerk, unless there's other members, unless there are no objections, we will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of this item.
Approved 15-0.
Thank you.
Item 5426 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, an act authorizing Westchester County to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Ardsley to fund certain infrastructure improvements in support of the development of AFFH housing to be located at 867 Sawmill River Road.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, as previously discussed, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on the item. And I just want to make one other point, because I think that it's important for us to know. We worked so hard together with the administration on this particular item. I know that at least I've been involved in this from January of this year, with the administration trying to work through this particular arrangement. And I know that there was a modification in the not-for-profit group which caused some concern, and specifically that concern being the not-for-profit group is the same not-for-profit group which is doing our marketing plan, which we clearly stated might be an issue. There's been assurances that that may not be the case, but it's something that we need to monitor. Madam Clerk, unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5427 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of bonds of the county in an amount not to exceed $735,000 to finance capital project BPL 50, acquisition of land and the construction of improvements located at 867 Sawmill River Road in the Village of Ardsley.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, as previously discussed, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. I'm sorry, Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make one clarification. The Village of Ardsley did give us the figures of their out-of-pocket for the back taxes. It was a number slightly in excess of $174,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Thank you for that information for the Village of Ardsley. So it would be at least 373, and it's a question of, is that 174 included in the 373, which I doubt. So the numbers should be added together. Okay? So for people to understand the difference. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5552 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of bonds of the county in an amount not to exceed $935,000 to finance capital project BPL 10 acquisition of land located at 867 Sawmill River Road in the Village of Ardsley.
Unless there's Ms. Myers?
Yes, as previously discussed, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Motions, resolutions, call of the districts.
I know some members are looking at the clock and we don't know why that it is stuck at 10 minutes after 11 or 12 minutes after 11. It is not 12 minutes after 11. Now, so for any of you that were wondering whether you were going to get home in time for either the baseball game or for the Monday night football item, Mr. Kaplowitz.
Yes, Mr. Kaplowitz rises, I rise. Speaks in the third person, noting the time. This isn't call of the district, but this is just a little levity. Call for the district. Wife and I just got back from Oregon and Washington a week or so ago. It's beautiful country. And this past weekend, we went up the North County Trail and over the reservoir and to Stewart's Farm. And I'm inviting all colleagues to come up to the North County. This is a beautiful part of the country as well. One could say even more beautiful. And Stewart's Farm and Wilkins Farm and all the great farms with pumpkin and apple picking and all the great stuff. This season has been great. North County Trail is beautiful. And maybe this board can even see itself at some point to possibly upping to invest in some of the farms up there as we've done in the past. Stewart's Farm is a resource that really we do not want to lose. As they've done a good job in the Northwest, preserving a lot of the land, we need to, in Westchester County, do as well. And this board has a long history of making the appropriate investments so that we can stay home and see some great country and some great agriculture. And I look forward to working with colleagues to make that happen for Stewart's and Wilkins and all the other great farms throughout Westchester County. So come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplowitz. And again, the piece of legislation that we had that, can you just give folks that name again? Because again.
It's a PDR, Purchase of Development Rights. And what it does is it allows us for pennies on the dollar to be able to preserve the development that will never happen, and yet the farm continues as a farm forever on the books, paying taxes and being a great economic engine. And it's something that really you make a very small investment and a wonderful dividend for quite some time to come. So I would hope this administration, as the past administration, has seen the wisdom in making that small investment, because the dividend is generational and really provides a good quality of life initiatives for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplowitz. I saw Mr. Mazzano.
Mr. Mazzano rises to add the name of Matta Gail Murphy to the memorial resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzano. Mr. Burrows.
Yes, I'd like to join Legislator Spreckman with Ralph Puma and Jennifer Yedowitz-Pfeiffer.
As I would too, Mr. Burrows, and I'm sure that you would like to join with many members on Jim Pinsley.
Yes.
Yes, with all the Yonkers legislators, as well as all of the Democratic caucus, any other members as well. I'm sorry?
When did that happen?
It happened on Saturday night,
Oh.
and his funeral was today. So they sit and shiver, speak to me later about it, we'll do that. Mr. Harkin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, two things. One, I would ask perhaps all legislators on Jim Pinsley. And the second is I would just ask all legislators to keep the family of our colleague Lyndon Williams in their prayers. They just had suffered some loss late last week, and understand they now have someone else in their family who's seriously ill. So if we could keep Legislator Williams' family in our prayers, it'd be much appreciated.
Since there are members that don't know what happened, Mr. Williams' brother-in-law passed away last week very suddenly, and his mother-in-law fell ill today. That's why he's not in the meeting this evening with us. Again, thank you, Mr. Harcum, for that. Other members, Ms. Borgia.
I'd like to add in the memorial resolutions, Mary Elizabeth, known as Liz Schatz.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Other members? Mr. Ryan, I know that I noted that in our communications that we did have some information from NISAC that you've been distributing. Do you want to mention that now, or do you want to wait to a different time for the legislative agenda, Mr. Ryan, as the immediate past president, and our NACO board member, or Mr. Harcum?
Well, let me just, I think our thanks to Majority Leader Pete Harcum. All members, I think, have received or have access to on their email this publication by the New York State Association of Counties, a roadmap to mandate relief. It's a continuation of work that we launched back in September of 2010 that NISAC used during the time I was president to begin to instruct state legislators as to exactly what the impact was on not just state mandates generally, but the 9 largest on counties. And of course, we have talked time and time again about the largest one, the Medicaid mandate, which currently impacts counties outside the city of New York to the tune of $2 billion on the property tax levy, and including the city of New York, and that substantial lift down there, $7.5 billion. And so it's a publication that's in our hands today is a roadmap that basically goes through the largest mandates, which we've tried to focus on, and it also kind of shares with you some of the strategy that has been discussed over 2 years between NISAC, your organization, and the governor's office, the Assembly, and Senate, with steps they could take to help relieve some of the burden that we feel here on the property tax. I'd also urge you to take a look at the new president, Ed Diana's message. Back 2 years ago, I had taken the 9 largest mandates and kind of indicated that with the passage of the property tax cap, the limitation on our revenue-raising ability in the context of laws that were not going to be changed, and the operation of those laws in the 9 largest mandated areas would increase our costs tremendously, and there's no way with the cap in place that we could possibly keep pace with that. Well, Ed Diana, who just was installed as president a couple months ago, has continued that conversation. Those numbers are now updated for 2013. So I would urge all members to take a look at that information as well. I put you in a much better position to talk to your constituents about what really is the root cause of the property tax problem here in Westchester and the other 61 counties, remaining 61 counties, or rather outside the city of New York, the other 56. And also, you know, as you discuss these things with the media, I'm sure your editorial boards talk to you about it, and you should be aware of the most recent figures that are in place. Give them a better idea as to what the real impact is of the state on our county operation.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Other members? Mr. Maison, I don't want you to think that I forgot about your challenge to come to the Iona Prep game. I am not available for the record. However, another great Fordham Prep man who happens to work for your caucus, Justin Tubiello, will be there representing Fordham Prep and doing a wonderful job making sure that our folks from Fordham Prep are well represented.
David's coming, and I already told him when Iona wins, he has to buy my hot dog and my soda.
All right, if we all could please rise. Observe a moment of silence for those members or those individuals mentioned in the memorial resolutions. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we adjourn and reconvene on October 29th at 7 p.m.
On the motion of Mr. Harcum, the board stands adjourned.
Oh, come on, break free for 2 hours.
Because you know.
I said to Peter, there's too much for the down, never go to football game.
Oh, no,